Welcome back to Capitol Review. This week, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Washington, D.C. and delivered a speech to a joint Congress.
America and Israel must stand together, because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
During his speech, supporters of Palestine took to the streets in the district and they swarmed Union Station's Columbus Circle. American flags were burned and graffiti was on the statues. Since then, cleanup crews have been working around the clock to clean up the mess. And joining Capitol Review is Mychael Schnell. Schnell is the Congressional Reporter with our media partners at The Hill. Mychael, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, Mychael, as you know, Israel's prime minister caused a lot of stir here in the district. What was Congress's overall response to the prime minister's address?
Yeah, it was pretty divided. Look, so even going into this speech, this address to a joint meeting of Congress, it was very clear that this was going to divide Congress. You had a number of House Democrats, some Senate Democrats, announcing that they plan to boycott the speech, and we saw that on full display. We saw a number of House Democrats, at least more than 30, did not attend Netanyahu's speech in the House chamber. A number of Senate Democrats also didn't. But really what sort of showed the striking display of this division within the Congress was that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who is the only Palestinian-American individual currently serving in Congress, she was at the speech but held up a sign at various times that on one side said war criminal, on another side said guilty of genocide, just right there highlighting the deep divisions over Israel's government and Israeli policy, but also Israel's war against Hamas that's been percolating through the House and really the Congress at large since that October 7th attack.
As you know, the Prime Minister Netanyahu met with Biden and Harris the following day. What's your reaction to them not being there? Of course, she met with President Biden on Friday, but for those two not being there, did that catch you by surprise?
Yeah, it was interesting because there were notable absences both on the House, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side. You're right, Vice President Kamala Harris was not at the speech, and if she were there, she would have sat behind Netanyahu as she delivered the speech, which is customary for the vice president to do during a joint meeting of Congress. Instead, she was traveling. So Senator Ben Cardin, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he was the one who was presiding in that seat. So that was a notable absence. But you can't talk about the Harris absence without also noting that Senator J.D. Vance, Republican from Ohio, who of course was just recently chosen by former President Trump to serve as his running mate, he was also absent from the chamber during that speech because he said that he had campaign duties. That's what the campaign had said. So look, Harris did meet with Netanyahu at the White House on Thursday. That was a meeting separate of President Biden. So we've heard a lot of folks sort of push back on the criticism of Harris not attending the speech by noting that she did have extensive time with the prime minister. On the other side of the coin, former President Trump met with Netanyahu today at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. So there was a meeting between the Republican ticket and Netanyahu as well. But nonetheless, a lot of discussion about this speech, both about, the protests and the boycotts that we saw, about the content of his speech, but also some of those notable absences from the chamber.
Quickly, Mychael, moving forward, will the U.S. and Israel remain strong allies?
Absolutely, I think so. Look, Israel is the U.S.'s strongest, closest ally in the Middle East. The U.S. has been a very strong ally to Israel throughout its war against Hamas there in the Gaza Strip. I don't expect that to change at all. This is a partnership and a friendship that has lasted for decades, and I expect that to continue for decades to come.
Mychael Schnell, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.